Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our Spot On series. Spot On has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called Spot On Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through Done For You podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build great relationships with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25.com or email us at support@rise25.com. P.Terry co-founded P.Terry's Burger Stand in Austin, Texas with his wife, Kathy, in 2005. Now with 30 locations, P.Terry's differentiates itself by using exceptional quality ingredients while offering a tremendous value. Additionally, P.Terry's prides itself on taking care of their employees and also the community. Patrick, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Great. It's my pleasure to be here.
Hey, as I mentioned, you and your wife founded P.Terry's in 2005. What had you guys been doing prior to that?
Well, I started in advertising when I got out of college, and I was in Dallas at a large firm, and I missed Austin, where I went to the University of Texas, and so I was trying to get back to Austin, and I became involved with to get back to Austin. I became involved with the state government, and we had a 150th birthday we called the Texas Centennial Commission. And then I actually ran that a long time ago. That got me to Austin. I met my wife later on. She was involved as a paralegal with a law firm. And I had done, I was kind of that jack of all trades, master of none. I saw myself as an entrepreneur of sorts, and I had done rental property around the city. I had done some consulting and marketing and advertising, which was my background. And I had always had my sights set on opening a burger stand for a long time. For some unexplainable reason, I wanted to sell burgers, fries, and shakes. And so actually I say that it was, there's no reason, but there was. I love the concept. I love the simplicity of selling something like that. Of all the things I got involved in rental property, and I got absolutely no satisfaction out of it. Turned out it was a great investment, and I appreciate that. But on a day-to-day basis, there just wasn't much satisfaction. My wife is extremely organized. At one time, probably had a photographic memory, just in those early days when you're young, and not that she's old, but when you're young and really knocking it out of the park. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of became this, when we got married, we kind of became this team that allowed us to do this. It was, she'll tell you this was not her idea, that opening up burger stands was all mine. But man, I couldn't have done it without her. The idea of getting involved in a business like this, and I had been in the restaurant business in previous lives. I had a little pizza place back in Dallas, and I like the business, but there's a reason you kind of get, a lot of people get out of it and then they get back in it, and it's probably because they forgot how hard it was in the first place. So that's kind of where we were when I decided to pull the plug and or take the leap and open up the burger stand.
So you decided to do that. You had some background in the restaurant industry. Tell me about about opening the first location and what the early days there were like.
Well, they were miserable. It's extremely difficult, and I had set a standard. I was 45-ish at the time when I opened it, and I had done some stuff. I was kind of famous for sticking around on a project or a business for 3 years, and then I start to get bored and I'd either sell it or move on, whatever it was. And I had determined that at my age, this was going to be this was it. I was going to do this, and I was going to finish out my career selling hamburgers. And then when the decision was made reluctantly to call it P.Terry's, because when you put your name on it, it does add a tremendous amount of pressure. If you give a damn about your reputation and how you're perceived, and I do. So I knew that this was it, and I had standards in mind that were really hard to reach. We were going to serve a product that was unique. We were going to serve it at a price probably under the competition, which wasn't selling the quality that we were selling. We were going to do it in an environment where, fast food, and I know it's been changed now to quick service, but I'm old enough just to keep calling it fast food because I know why they changed the name, because it had a bad reputation. And I was determined to bring a good reputation back to it. So to answer your question, we had these really high goals, and so I wanted employees that cared. I wanted a service that was back in the day, that used to exist, that I think has, for the most part, have fallen off. I wanted to serve a product that nobody else was serving. I wanted it consistent. I wanted a lot of things. And I wanted it, it happened to be in a 527 square foot building with a drive-through, a walk-up window, no real heat or no real air conditioning. And I wanted it done right every day. And so it was really difficult because I went through a lot of people. I just had a standard that we weren't going to bend to. And it really almost killed me. It was, we worked in the restaurant, my wife and I worked in the restaurant. I ended up working longer than she did because she got lucky and we started having kids. And so, but the hours were incredibly long. It was, I would get to the restaurant around 7 in the morning and take the deposits from the night before and take them to the bank. And I would work through the day. If I got home before 11, that was a good day. And it was 7 days a week. And we were creating things as we were going. I didn't have a lot of experience I had some restaurant experience, but I didn't have any experience in French fries, and the burgers weren't hard, but the French fries were very tough because we serve a fresh potato, and many of the chains serve what's called a kennebuck, and that's a desert potato. Our friends at In-N-Out serve, and it's a year-round crop. And I chose the Idaho Burbank, which is picked once a year, and is difficult because once a potato is picked, although they do their best to store it properly, there's going to be a sugar to starch ratio that changes, and so you have to deal with it year-round. You're probably learning more about this than you want to know. But it's a nightmare because you're cooking a potato in April that was picked in September, and you have to adjust the amount of sugar that's in the potato. And by doing that, you have to put it in a warm water bath, and you have to do it for a certain amount of time, and that time changes, and the temperature of the water changes. And so it's literally a daily routine on how we're going to serve our French fries. It's a pain in the ass, and most people won't do it. And that's why I'm so free to talk about it, because I can tell you how to do it every day. And in the end, you're going to look at me and go, yeah, I'm just not going to mess with it. Mm-hmm. So we had these, the standards that we were just set to do. And, the hardest thing for a business owner, if I can speak in general terms, is when you are small, you're fairly powerless. You don't get a lot of respect from your suppliers. And frankly, they are figuring you're going out of business soon. So they just siphon as much money as they can out of you until you go away. And so what you're trying to do is get bigger, and at least from a standpoint of survival. And so I was trying to get to 3 stores because I figured at 3 stores, it's harder to mess with me. And I would have some people behind me that I now had a couple of managers. I wasn't doing this all by myself. And I was getting maybe a better price on my goods because now I'm increased my inventory. And so the whole goal was, if I can get to 3, I can breathe. And in this business, the second store can kill you. If you fail with the second store, then you easily can go to 0. You can bring that one down. So, and I was well aware of it. I had seen that happen with other businesses. So my second store was only 3 miles away from my first store. And I was willing to cannibalize a little bit off the first store, but I felt like I was safe. And also, it's an interesting thing when you work in your business every day, as you should, at least I believe so, at least at the beginning, you get to know your customers. And what I was seeing was my customers changed on the weekend. And on the weekend, in Austin, Texas, where my location was, there is a river between one part of the city and another, and to cross the bridge is there's a psychological thing. And so on the weekends, people were willing to cross the bridge. They had time. It was a Saturday. Hopefully the weather was good. And so I was seeing people in a particular neighborhood coming over on Saturdays and Sundays that I didn't see Monday through Friday. And I remember saying to my wife, if we can get a store over closer to that neighborhood, then we'll see those people 2 or 3 times a week. And that'll be enough for us to get through and survive that second location, which is exactly what happened. We were very lucky. And then the third location followed right after that.
Was it more difficult to maintain the standard or establish that standard and have other people follow it, or to get customers? It sounded like customers weren't a problem.
Yeah, the customers weren't the problem, thank God, because that's the one thing that that's the hardest thing. But we were able to establish it. We had the first location had been open for 3 years, and I had people there that I could trust, and so I was able to go to the second location, and I brought some of those people from the first over to the second, and we were just down the street, so it was manageable. It wasn't easy because I had obviously micromanaged the first store, and I'm not able to be at both locations at once, which is kind of the nightmare of all nightmares when you have the mentality I have. So that worked out. But you were always worried on expansion, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times, and it's because it's true. You're always worried on expansion that either the quality or the culture will suffer, or both, by expanding. And I've seen it 1,000 times, and my greatest nightmare is to have someone say to me, "Oh, I remember when you used to be that good," or and that's the thing that we've done this now for 19 years, and that's the one thing that keeps me awake at night.
So you talked about quality and also culture. Let's kind of dive into that. There are there are a lot of burger places out there. What kind of sets P.Terry's apart in terms of the quality of the product?
Well, it was all very intentional. I don't believe in doing things doing things differently just for the sake of doing things differently. I think it's a total waste of time and a bad business decision. What I wanted to do was serve a product of a quality that very few restaurants were offering, any kind of restaurant, frankly, and offer it at a price that was below what anyone else was serving. So obviously I'm working on tight margins, and I need a line to the street if it's going to work. And so what we did, and we got very lucky. By the way, none of this happens without luck. Perhaps you make your own, perhaps you get it. You can argue how it came, but man, without good luck, it just doesn't happen. So a friend of ours had just read a book called Fast Food Nation just before we opened. It's by Eric Schlosser. And in it, Schlosser talks about the pros and cons of the fast food industry in America and what it's done. Mostly con, not all, but some pro. And my wife read it and then threw it to me, and she said, "Well, if you're going to do this, you should do it right." And that really changed things. And then we were talking to a supplier just before we opened, and he said, "Well, there's an all natural beef that's being offered out of California. It's hormone free, antibiotic free, and vegetarian fed." Well, in 2005, I didn't know what the hell he was talking about. I'd never heard of such a thing. And by the way, Austin is the home of Whole Foods. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure Whole Foods wasn't even serving this at the time, just to show you how early on this all was. And by the way, our French fries are cooked in canola oil, which is intentional because it's non-hydrogenated oil. And a few years after we started serving that became the law in New York State. So we were just way ahead of all of this. And so we were offering this product, and still to this day, our menu is cheaper than McDonald's. Our menu is cheaper than In-N-Out. And we're serving the same quality as Shake Shack, which also serves a very high quality burger. We just happen to do it for a lower price. And so we differentiated ourselves from the very beginning. And what I found was I didn't know how to sell it. I didn't know how to explain it. And the minute you try and sell a hamburger by telling people it's healthy, which I don't know is even fair, man, I would watch people just, literally walk away.
Really?
And so what I ended up doing was I put a board up that said every P.Terry to this day. Our look is retro, so it looks like an old TV screen. But what it says is, it literally says, "You are eating," and then it explains what's in our food. And I did that because I realized that not everyone cares. Obviously, none of this works if the food doesn't taste good, but some people do care what's in it and why it tastes good. And so I just put it up there. And we've been so careful for 19 years to be just, for lack of a better term, just non-political. This is what we serve. This is who we are. And if you like it, great. If you don't, it's okay. And so we put that out there, and we were, we were selling we were literally, when we opened, we were literally patting the burgers, hand pressing them in the store, this 500 square foot store. And we were doing this because they were coming in 5-pound chubs. It's the only way we could get them from California. At the time, we just didn't have the buying power. And we were literally hand patting them and throwing them to the grill man as fast as we could on a Saturday. I can remember thinking, my God, when will this end? It was crazy. So that's how we do it. We do it with that and fresh squeezed lemonade and those kind of things at what we think are very good prices.
So let's talk about a little bit about the culture then. How would you describe the culture at P.Terry's?
Well, I think, the term one big family is used a lot, and I think it's a misnomer. I don't think it's fair. I love these people, so many of them, but you're also balancing a business. And so the culture has to be based on a two-way street, because I am running a business. And so I'm not going to pretend that, that I'm Mother Teresa, although I admired the hell out of her. What we do is we say to our employees, we will take care of you to the best of our ability. 2 years ago, frankly, before anyone else, we guaranteed a $15 minimum wage, maybe 2.5 years ago. And obviously we have insurance and all of those things. We now are into paid vacations. We're in a 401k. We give a bonus to everyone, and it's based on how many years you've worked for us. So we've had people that have worked for us for 19 years. Well, and in December, they have accumulated $10 a month for every month they've worked for us. So, last Christmas, and these are low-level people. These aren't the managers or anybody in the office, but these are guys at the counter and at the grill. They're getting several $1,000 bonus if they've worked for us for that many years. I think we gave away almost $200,000 in Christmas bonuses to our employees. What we also do is we offer interest-free loans to our employees, because the hardest thing for a guy who's making $15 an hour, he's still not saving any money. I mean, let's not pretend, especially in Austin, Texas, where the rent is, we're getting ridiculous. It's just, very expensive to live there. That you can get in a bind very quickly, and it can change your life. And so if you're short on a deposit for an apartment, or your truck breaks down, we will loan you $500-600, whatever that number is, and then you pay us back through us withdrawing it or taking it out of your salary, your paycheck, at a level you tell us to, because you don't need to get right back in the hole. And so we've been doing this since the very beginning. And I go back very quickly. Well, I'll tell you one other. So the other thing we do is, and I know it sounds like a small thing, but everybody gets a birthday cake on their birthday. And we have 3 employees that all they do is make birthday cakes. And our only company car is the driver of delivering birthday cakes. Nobody else has a company car. And she drives a new Subaru every 3 years, which I don't recommend anyone buying, because she smokes like a bandit as she's driving, and I can't even imagine what that car is like. But that's who we are, and we show up, and the reason we do this is that we worked in the burger stands, and so my wife was working one Saturday, and an employee was leaving, and another employee wished her happy birthday. Her name was Rosario, and it was almost 20 years ago, or 19 years ago. And my wife turned and said, "I've been working with you all day long, and I didn't know it was your birthday. I'm sorry." And the next day she brought her a cake. And that's how this started. You don't start those things necessarily unless you're there. The non-interest loan started with an employee named Vinny, who still works for us. And Vinny couldn't come to work because his truck broke down, which meant I was going to have to work fries that night. And I didn't want to work fries because I'd already worked all day. And so I said, "What's it going to take?" And he said, "Well, the truck repair is $150. And I said, "Well, get a cab. I'll pay the cab, come work, and I'll give you the money when you get here," and which is what I did. And so I just started loaning money to the employees when things happened, to the point where somebody said, "You probably ought to write this stuff down." And then we started to write it down on a piece of paper, and someone said, "Well, maybe we should get a little bit more official, or a little more professional in how we're doing this." And so we have. But there is and before anyone pats me on the back really fast and says, "Oh, what a great guy you are," let me tell you, if you bail out an employee, they tend to stay with you. Because they're not so sure the next employer is going to do the same. And so it has worked well for us. But none of this works if they don't give back. If they, and what I ask of them is just to take care of the customer, is to take care of the business. If it's not a two-way street, it doesn't work. If they're taking care of me and I'm not taking care of them, they split. And if the reverse is, the same is true. If I'm taking care of them, they're not taking care of me, then they're going to leave one way or another. So So that's really what the culture is based on. And the hardest thing is training people who come from different restaurants or different businesses to understand that that's what we're about.
So what would you say? It sounds like you have extraordinarily high expectations for your product,
Yeah,
and you take care of your, I mean, at least relative to fast food, the fast food industry, you take care of your employees extraordinarily well.
yeah.
And you said, that's only doable if they take care of the customer. How would you describe the vibe then at P.Terry's from a customer standpoint?
Well, what I hope, and I'm not going to kid you, we have 30 locations and 1,200 employees, so it isn't always going to be so.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm hoping for is that the customer drives away, whether they've eaten in the restaurant or gone through the drive-through, that they drive away wanting to come back. And how I want them to come back is that they got their food in a reasonable time, and it's prepared correctly. Those are the basics, but I want them to feel like that we recognize them, that we saw them. And it's hard for a busy restaurant for an employee who's just trying to get it right, get the order right, hand the correct order out, make the transaction, knowing there's a line, and still make you feel like you're special, or that we appreciate you coming. Excuse me, that's our goal. And that you drive away thinking, I got personal service, I got a smile, and that really helped me through this day. There are times when we've done amazing things, where I've gotten a letter or email from a customer that said, your employees sensed that there was something wrong and asked me. I talked to them about that it was the anniversary of my wife's death. She came over and gave me a hug. We have those great moments. We also have moments where, we didn't make eye contact. So, that's what you're always looking for. And I have to tell you, having worked in the restaurant and the lines to the street, thank God, a lot of it is, I just got to get the damn food out. I just got to get the damn food out. There's a line, there's a car behind me. And so I'm not trying to be rude, but I just got to get the food out. And so that's the balance that we're trying to achieve. And we don't always get it, but that's what we're trying to do.
So just a few more questions for you. You've had, obviously, we talked about the first 3 locations. Now you've bloomed to 30, I believe.
Right.
How have you been able to replicate these kind of high expectations in customer service, in employee treatment, and in quality of product among all of these locations?
The main reason is that we have taken the people that have been with us the longest, and we've created what we call a green team. And the green team goes in for all store openings and sticks around for a couple of weeks. And what they're trying to achieve is setting a standard in that restaurant before they leave. And the person that heads up the green team has been with us about 14 years and has worked at, opened several of those locations on his own when he was managing. And so it's always just pushing those people in there. And then the goal is to have them come back, make sure that it's being done. And we are constantly, we put a lot of pressure on area managers, which oversee about a half a dozen stores. And there's a constant pressure on them that, man, if they're not able to preach what we're about, then no one can, and we're in trouble, because the area manager is, they're the ones out day to day in those stores, checking on the managers. You can get 5 or 6 area managers in a room quite easily. It's a lot harder to get 30 managers in. So a lot of the pressure is on the area managers to focus on that culture and what we're trying to achieve.
How did the pandemic have much of an effect on you guys?
We were really lucky. Because we had drive-throughs.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, it's easy to forget what it was like. It was very scary. Our employees, at one point early on, and for good reason, feared for their life. They really did not know what was going to happen to them, and I didn't either. We were the first restaurants in Austin to shut their dining room down. So I think it was Monday, March 14th or whatever it was, but all our dining rooms were closed. We kept the drive-thrus open, but we just shut everything else down. And we're arguing back and forth about face masks because, so was the, CDC on that. And so, the first couple of weeks we didn't know if we were going to have a business. We really didn't. And then after that, we saw that we were probably in a good position because of the drive-thrus. And then something crazy happened, because if you're around me long enough, it's almost the norm. We decided in May of that year that we would launch a new product. We insist on only 5 items on the menu, and hamburger, cheeseburger, a double cheeseburger, a chicken burger, and a veggie burger. And we decided that number 4, the chicken burger, which was a grilled chicken burger, we would add a crispy chicken burger. And so in the middle of this pandemic, we introduced the crispy chicken burger that had our largest sales that day. And in 3 years have sold 2.4 million of the crispy chicken burgers.
Wow.
So crazy things happen in the middle of a pandemic, I guess.
Did you feel it necessary to, maybe you already had, but did you feel it necessary to incorporate delivery, or is the drive-through part of the experience?
Well, we do. We don't deliver ourselves. We use, DoorDash.
Yeah,
and the
but you
like.
do that.
And we do have an app that allows you to, to order online, and then we will have it delivered through one of those services. I never wanted to deliver the product ourselves because the product is not the same delivered, especially a burger and fries. And I didn't want to be responsible for, P.Terry's delivering this item. So that's on DoorDash.
I have one more question for you, but how can people find out more about P.Terry's?
Oh, you're nice to ask. Well, P.Terry's.com, we have a website that really talks about our culture and our locations and kind of the history of it all. I think it explains everything. I think it's a different story. It's not always perfect, but I think we're unique.
Final question for you. When you go to P.Terry's, as you mentioned, your menu is not overly expansive. What is your kind of go-to meal of choice?
So this is crazy because I'm a burger eater, and after 18, 19 years, I actually eat our veggie burger. By the way, if you've got just a minute, we have a commissary, and our kitchen creates our veggie burger every day. It runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We make our own veggie burgers with brown rice, cremini mushrooms, fresh parsley, cheese. It's a great product, and we bake our own cookies in the commissary. We grind our own chicken for chicken burgers, and that's just become my go-to. I guess I feel like I've eaten enough meat in the last 18 years that I'll go to the veggie burger. But that's my go-to right now.
Very nice. Hey, Patrick, it's been great to talk to you. Very interesting stuff. You guys have a great story, and I wish you the best of luck in the future. Thanks so much for joining me today.
It's been my pleasure.
So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.